Yeah, and we have nice spring weather now. Hopefully it stays.
Indeed, the spring weather is quite nice. A
Yep.
little
Feels more
foggy
like
today.
summer.
Yeah, it's getting there. All
Yeah,
right,
so
we're seeing people coming in.
yeah, they're
Hello to
trickling in.
everybody. Hello, hello.
Hello,
We're happy
hello.
to have you here today.
We're just letting everybody in.
And they're
We're
going to
just
have triple
watching.
the fun today.
Yeah, maybe for those of you that have joined, if you can type in the chat which city or country you're viewing the webinar from, just so we have an idea of where the audience is tuning in from.
Yeah. I think all three of us are in the Toronto region, the
Yep.
GTA
So we got
area.
another Sonia from Toronto, Paolo from Toronto,
Toronto,
Yay,
Edmonton,
Toronto.
Vancouver, Ottawa,
Edmonton. Wow.
but mostly in
Lethbridge.
Canada.
Vancouver,
Mhm.
St. Catharines.
Yep.
Nice.
Lots of Ontario.
Do we have anyone from
Toronto.
outside of
Island.
Canada?
Vancouver, Charlottetown,
Oh, Mexico.
Mexico.
Yukon,
Yeah,
Vancouver,
Yukon,
Mississauga,
Mississauga.
Toronto. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
Prince Edward,
PEI.
Nova Scotia. Great. More Torontonians.
Oh, in Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
Okay.
Indianapolis. Nice.
Yep.
Calgary. Brazil, but in Toronto, not in Ottawa. Good. All right. We are
Oh,
still
that's
getting
Oh,
exciting.
some
from Jordan.
people.
Wow.
Jordan,
From
nice.
Jordan.
We're still getting some people joining in and pouring in, so we're just giving it a minute more before we start thing in the full force.
So you
Heidi
got
from
Ari from
Mississauga.
Mississauga.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone wants to grab a coffee or tea right now, we're going to get started in a minute or two.
Here's my coffee. Probably can't see it, but here
Here's
it's
mine.
there.
I got my tea.
Cheers.
Cheers to you, everyone here.
So for you guys that are already here, we're going to get started in full force in just a couple of minutes. But for you guys that are already here, thank you so much for joining us. We have done these kinds of webinars together, the three of us, many times.
Yeah.
Or listening, reading, writing. We focused on different parts of the speaking. We've looked at general teachings, studying self-study strategies. We've compared IELTS and CELPIP, the similarities and differences. So we've done quite a few of these together. So if you're interested after this, you can take a look at Summerhill Online Academy. We have a YouTube channel with many videos out there for you guys to see. We have more people.
Yes,
North
and just a
York.
quick reminder from Patrick. So if anyone is joining us, please put the questions on the Q&A tab so that we can respond accordingly.
Perfect. Yes. So yes, and at the end of today's session, we are going to have a Q&A session. So we'll have a Q&A session later at the very end. So we're going to try to zip through a lot of content today, and then quite a lot of content. And then we're going to try to save some time for the Q&A. And I can see it's 7:04. So we're almost there.
I think I prefer the Q&R that you mentioned. So
Q&R.
some question and relaxing. I kind of like that.
Q&R would be fantastic. Would be quite preferable to anything else. Yeah, Q&R. But yes, we will be answering your questions towards the end. And so fantastic. We are here, ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, fantastic. So let's go ahead and get started. So
Yeah, so we have so Anna and I are from Prometric, which is the company that owns the CELPIP test worldwide, which is an English test that's accepted for immigration and citizenship purposes in Canada. And we have our longtime friend and partner, Mache, from Summerhill Online Academy. He's also a registered Canadian immigration consultant or regulated. Is it registered or regulated?
It's regulated. It's
Okay,
regulated.
you're the
Yeah,
expert.
regulated.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're here today to give you tips on the CELPIP speaking component. And also there's some promotional offers that we have as well. If you had any immigration questions as well. So I'll take it away, guys.
Okay, fantastic. Again, thank you, Patrick and Anna, for joining us. Anna has been, so just a quick little summary about Anna. Anna has been working for Prometric for quite some time. She started as a CELPIP teacher. She's been working with this. She's really an expert about the CELPIP in terms of the format and for teaching strategies and for preparation. And Patrick has been working for Prometric for quite some time. He is basically an expert to ask any questions about things like regulations, policies, anything customer service related, anything to do with the procedures of actually registering and attending the CELPIP test. And my name is Maciej Błaszczyk. I am the founder of Summerhill Net Academy, and we run a monthly intensive group CELPIP course, and I'll tell you about it later. And we do have a promotion this month for a free immigration consultation for those who are participating or enrolling in our group CELPIP course. But today we are going to go ahead and talk to you. We're going to cover a lot of ground. These webinars are not about prattling along. These are about really getting intensive about this. So today we're going to talk about CELPIP speaking specifically. And we know that some of you might have, and specifically, we're going to take a look about CELPIP speaking. We know that we can download some of these band descriptors about what actually examiners are looking for. But I'm going to ask the questions first to our panelist expert, Anna. What are CELPIP assessors looking for in a good CELPIP speaking answer in general? So basically, when we see these band descriptors, these are not specific for any of the questions. For all 8 questions, the examiners are looking for something specific. What would you say are some of the tips you might think, or what are some of the things that examiners are looking for in good CELPIP and speaking answers?
Well, that's a kind of a loaded question, but I know that content would be one. When you're responding to a certain question, we want to see how many ideas, the quality of ideas, how you expand, for example, the details, vocabulary, word choice would be another, the type of range of vocabulary, words, phrases, how precise you are in responding to these questions. Obviously grammar is in there, but it's not the number one thing, because a lot of people are always concerned about that. But obviously the structure of your responses, the sentence structures, like, are you using connectors, transitions? So there's always various things you can do when responding to these questions. And obviously the tone that you're using, I mean, are you trying to be polite? Is there a level of formality when you're responding to this? Are you speaking informally to a friend? So we're making sure that you're using the right information as well as the tone. And is it naturally coming out? Is it a natural response? You're not speaking too slowly, too quickly. So there's many things that we're looking for, especially for the scoring, because obviously people want the best scores. So it's always good to be aware of all these details.
Yeah, and I would really say that naturally sounding natural, right, is something that's really important for the speaking. But for our purposes, if you want to summarize things very easily, I would say when examiners, and again, I worked as an examiner for many of these exams in the past, I would say that if for all standardized language proficiency examinations in general, whether it's IELTS, CELPIP, or TOEFL, examiners are usually looking for 4 specific criteria, which means they are looking for extension, which means how much detail you are providing, cohesion, the way that the answer is actually organized, sentence complexity. Complex sentences mean more than just mistakes. For example, you could make a response in your speaking with no grammar mistakes and still get a very low score if you do not have complex sentence. And of course, vocabulary selection. Yes, we want good vocabulary. We want precise and context-specific vocabulary. But when we are in the exam, we can't always remember these kinds of 4 criteria. We have to rely on a simple strategy. And so I pretty much came up with 3 essential strategies. Strategy number 1, tell a story you know. Tell a story you know means tell a story that you've heard somewhere. Maybe it was on television, maybe it was with friends. Often you're asked to respond to a personal experience. And we're going to talk about that later in section 2. You're going to be asked to give your opinions or tell a story. Tell a story you know. Give an example of a story you know. Right? Don't always make sure it's your story. It could be something you've heard on television, heard a person say. Number 2, and this is a big one, lie. In CELPIP, lying is good. Yes, it might be, lying is very good. In fact, you're going to be asked to respond about answers you're unfamiliar with. You're going to be asked questions that you don't know the answers to. That is part of the CELPIP exam. You'll be asked opinions you're not really sure about, or context you have never experienced. If you're not sure, if you're in doubt, lie. Make things up. Making things up means that you're bringing details that are at the tip of your tongue, ideas which are already in your mind and ready to use.
Just
Yes.
to add to this, when you are quote unquote lying, make sure it's something that would be a real situation. Don't say, oh, I saw a dinosaur when I just woke up. Not that type of lying, not fiction.
Yeah, unless just avoiding science fiction, but you can always use, I like this. For example, my Uncle Bob. This is my favorite quote ever. For example, my Uncle Bob, right? You can find a context. We all have Uncle Bobs in our lives as an example. For example, my Uncle Bob, and then you provide an example to support your opinion, support your argument, support your advice, right? And finally, limit your points and focus on extension and detail. Less is more, in the sense that you want to focus your points and extend your points and give examples for your points instead of giving a million reasons for your points. This is especially true for section 7. As we will see, we don't want to have a million reasons for our opinions. We want to put 2 main reasons and extend them, give more details, give examples and details why. So without any doubts, we're going to keep these 3 ideas in mind. Telling a story you know, limiting your focus, right? And lying. And we're going to see that these are 3 strategies we can use for all 8 sections of the CELPIP. But today we're going to take a look at each of the 8 sections of CELPIP and briefly give you guys some advice and some very helpful tips on how to do the best you could possibly do. Starting with CELPIP task 1, giving advice. Here's our question. Your friend is planning to have a business lunch in Toronto next week. Suggest a place for your friend to have a business meeting. Now, Patrick, maybe, or Anna, how would you tackle this question? Patrick, how would you tackle this question?
Business lunch in Toronto next week. Suggest a good place for your friend. I would say, like I probably want it to be in a quiet place, so not like a busy cafe. I don't know. I'm going blank right now. Any ideas, Anna?
From the
This is
audience?
well, that's precisely the point. Going blank is what's going to happen, because for this question, you only have 30 seconds to prepare, and then you have to speak for 90 seconds. 90 seconds is a really long time to speak, by the way, and a lot of details, right? A lot of details here, right? But generally speaking, some of the points I'm going to tell you here is, number one, when you're doing this particular test, you're giving advice, try to visualize, imagine the audience. Imagine you're speaking to a person, not a computer. This is not an academic task. And this actually connects with what Anna said earlier, which means to use natural sounding tone. You want to sound natural here, right? Sound natural. So the only way to sound natural is to imagine a real person. Imagine an actual person is there. Imagine a friend you're really talking to. Don't talk to the computer, talk to a real friend. Right? Imagine you're speaking to a real person and give real advice to that person. It always creates a better answer. 2, use proper tone. Anna, you mentioned this before. Can you give us a little bit more hints about this?
Well, if you're talking to your friend, I mean, if you're talking to a business partner or a manager, the way you talk to them will be different. But if it's a friend, then you might use a bit more informal conversation. So if I'm going to have coffee with a friend, I might go to cafe gallery or gallery cafe, which is in front of which is next to the room, and we'll have a conversation because it's quiet. I like the fact that Patrick mentioned like a quiet place. So that immediately gave me an idea, because I'm thinking, okay, if I want to have a conversation with somebody, then it needs to be at a certain place where I can see myself having a conversation with this person. And if it is a friend, that would be one way of talking to them, because you have to use a specific tone when you're talking to your friend, like, hey man, it's great to see you. But if you're talking to somebody unknown, then it's different. But you need to know the instructions to see who you're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to know your tone. Are you talking to your boss? Are you talking to a friend? You know, imagine how polite you sound. And for each of these tasks, for each of the 8 tasks, there's a different grammar point. And for task 1, we actually want to see the use of the language of advice, which actually ties up with what Anna said in terms of tone, because there are different ways to use advice. It could be very soft advice, you know, like, you might want to bring your friend to the pickle barrel. You could bring your friend to the pickle barrel. Could be medium tone. Why don't you bring your friends to the pickle barrel? You ought to bring your friends, or you have gotta. It depends on the strength or weakness of advice, but they are specifically looking for the language of advice in this particular answer. So this is where you need to practice this point. You can't just say you can. That would be low tone. That would be low vocabulary. You need to use formal use of advice. You should, you ought to, you might want to, you need to, right? And using a variety of that would actually help, right? Using a variety of this tone. So using language of advice, yeah.
And I like the point that somebody just made. I was saying we're having lunch with somebody. So pickle barrel is perfect. I was mentioning coffee, so I do apologize for that.
Yeah. And just to answer Sonia's question here, she said, how do we start this conversation in this case? So generally speaking, I like to extend these kinds of answers of 2 to 3 points instead of many details. And for example, I could say, I think we should, you could start very easily, say, I think we should go to the pickle barrel. I think you should do a business meeting at the pickle barrel. There you go. That's a good way to start it. But you don't want to have a million reasons. Oh, the pickle barrel is great. That's free internet. It has good food. It has good drinks. It has air conditioning. It has internet connection. It has a clean carpet. It results in a repetitive grammar structure. So again, when we're thinking about extension in this case, right? We want to limit our points and focus on the extension. So generally speaking, in this case, we would just extend. We would start by saying, oh, this is my piece of advice, right? This is what I think we should do. You should try the pickle barrel. I think you should try the pickle barrel, right? And then provide maybe 2, maybe 3 points to support your answer. And again, for this kind of answer, even a 90-second response, 2 points would be better than 3. This is where we want to extend with examples and details. So free internet is something that's good for about the pickle barrel. Explain how you can use the internet for a variety of business related needs. If it's the food, explain the menu. Give the varieties of the menu, right? So that's pretty much it, right? And again, we'll have to speak for 90 seconds. Anna or Patrick, do you guys want to add anything to task 1 before we move to task 2?
I would agree with what you just said. If it's fewer points with plenty of details or supporting details, that's better.
So we just had a question from, hopefully I'm saying it right, Mihailo. And it's if you're taking the test during a winter month, would inventing summer stories be penalized? What's your take on that?
Absolutely not. Be a good liar and use what your experience you've had. You had a great time during the summer. You remember all those good times, use it. Nobody cares about feelings here. It's all standardized. They're looking at the variety of sentence structure. Are the words specific? Is it in the context? Are you answering the question? As long as you're answering the question, that's all you need to do, right? That's all you need to do, right? Yes, 90 seconds is exactly it. You don't want to wait. You don't want to produce any silence. I mean, if you have a couple seconds, of silence in the beginning, 2 or 3 seconds at the end, it's okay. The best way to do it is just speak for 90 seconds. Now, if you have 2 points to speak about in those 90 seconds and you have some extra time, use a rounding up sentence. Like, in any case, if you have any more questions, you can always call me. I'm very happy to suggest other places if this place doesn't work out. Right? You can round it off, right? It's even better. But yes, you want to speak for 90 seconds. Anna?
No, I mean, I don't know what else I can add to that.
Then we're going to zip straight through to question number 2 because we're still have so many things. We have 8 questions here and we have a lot of different details. But yes, this is the first one. It's 90 seconds, right? Use language of advice. That's going to be the key. And task 2. Talking about a personal experience. Oh boy, let's take a look. Okay, here we go. Here's the question. Talk about a time when you made a decision about something, but then changed your mind. What was the situation? Why did you change your mind? What was the result? Let's move to Anna now. Anna, how would we answer this question? What would you say would be some good points for answering this question?
Well, at the start, when you do respond to a question like this, is give us some context. But don't go overboard in the context because obviously you're talking about a personal experience. Maybe this happened a year ago with your friend or with a neighbor or whomever. So you can give a tiny bit of context just to start and then talk about what the situation was, what happened, what made you change your mind, and then in the end, what the conclusion was or the result was. But it's good to have some information at the beginning, maybe some background information, but I always say it's like a sentence or 2 max, and then that's it. Start talking about the actual points that are given in the situation.
Okay, excellent points there for Anna. I would generally say read the question and read the question, understand the question carefully. But remember, because for this is talking about a personal experience, you're talking about a personal experience here. Remember that you are telling a story. So because you're telling a story, this is the grammar point. This is all about your past tense. This is your past tense exam, right? So in the least, you're expected to know your regular and your irregular verbs, but also not just using past verbs incorrectly. You get more, you have a score, you get a higher score if you use a variety of past tenses, not just simple past, but past progressive and even present perfect, which is a past tense as well. So using a variety of past tenses. I would also say when you're talking about this, use connectives like before, while, because that also creates complex sentences. Tell a story. When you're telling the story, always use while at least one time. This will trigger the fact that this will trigger your use of past progressive. While I was walking, while I was at my father's house, while I was young, right? And that's what this will help to create a variety of past tenses, right? Again, this is about extension, right? And instead of many micro details, for this particular section and for most sections in CELPIP, I do not recommend you take any notes. Instead, especially for section 2, you need to follow and address all of the sub questions. This is a really tricky part because you only have 60 seconds here. You only have 1 minute to complete this task. But in this task, in addition to using perfect past tense, you must answer all of the sub questions. Sometimes there are 3, sometimes there are 4. And sometimes the 4th question is hidden. For example, and why and how, for example, they give one of those questions. You must at all times answer all of those sub questions. And for me, it's a no-brainer. If you know that you only have 60 seconds, you have to use past tense and you need to answer all those questions. My favorite way to answer this question is simply to lie. I will just invent the story. I don't have time to talk about a real story, and maybe a real story in my life might be boring. So don't be afraid to lie, because when you sound dramatic in this story, you actually sound better. You get better tone. You begin to use better intonation. Be dramatic, make up the story and lie. It will actually increase your score. Any comments, guys?
I would include also my hands gestures because that helps me to talk more naturally. But sometimes if you're so rigid, you might not come out as natural as you normally would. But I know me, I talk with my hands, so nobody's going to be seeing you. But I do love the fact that you are telling a story, and that story could be something you heard from another person. It could be a story that you read, but the rater is not going to know that it's not true. They're going to think this is your experience, your reality. So I definitely agree, is tell a story.
And the rater is mostly just going to look at, are they using past tenses correctly?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
they
Oh.
answer all of the sub questions? So just answer all the sub questions, use good past tense, put while and when in there to give them complex sentences to get a higher score, and just lie, tell a story. It doesn't matter even if it makes too much. I mean, it's supposed to make sense, right? But if it's even quite whimsical, it's totally okay. Moving on, we're only at section 2. Moving to section 3. My goodness, describing a scene. Describe something that you see, things that are happening in this picture below as well as you can. The person with whom you are speaking cannot see the picture. This looks really easy and cartoony, but it's not. Patrick, how would you answer this question?
You probably want to start with an introduction of what you're looking at, just so that the person that can't see it has like a general idea first. And then you can start going into specific things that are happening in the picture that you feel comfortable talking about. So like if there's something you don't understand, I probably wouldn't try to explain that. I would stick to things that I understand what's going on. How does that sound?
It sounds pretty good. Good advice overall. I would say once again for section 3, we're not going to take any notes. We only have 30 seconds to prepare and we have to speak for 1 minute. So in those 30 seconds, first of all, understand the general context. What is this scene? What's happening in general? Because for your first step in speaking, you're going to start with a general overview of the context. For example, here you could say, this is a scene of a elementary school classroom during art class, right? General context, right? That gives an idea of what the picture is generally about. And by the way, guys, can you answer everything? Is it possible to describe everything in this picture in just 1 minute? No. The answer is absolutely not. So you're just going to focus on 3 or 4 points of interest. And again, this is very important because you're getting a score for 2 ways. You're getting a score for the precise detail that you provide in the picture, but also about spatial organization. So yes, you can use, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos, the foreground, middle ground, and background. And yes, by all means, use background, middle ground, and foreground. And sometimes it works, you know? So in those 30 seconds, understand what the picture is about. And then mark, mentally plan the direction of your response. First, maybe I'm going to talk about the girl feeding the ducks at the pond. Then I'm going to look at the back, just directly behind the girl, where there are some bird watchers looking at an eagle through some binoculars. Then I'm going to go a little very background where I see a few joggers, 1, 2, 3 points. And sometimes it's very easy to do that because you can see that the picture is rather simple and has 3 definitive sections in it. Sometimes it's chaos. Sometimes it's very confusing. And then don't be afraid to jump around. That foreground, middle ground, foreground formula doesn't always work. Be creative. Maybe start thinking about talking about the lady, and then maybe look at the equipment in the kitchen. Go jump directly to the behind her of the overflowing sink, and before finally moving to the center of the table, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 points of view. So what you're doing in those 30 seconds is you're trying to understand what the general context is, and then you're planning the direction of your explanation to understand, to explain with Deepak. What I would say, Deepak, is the way you will start section 3 is start with a general overview. Start with the general overview, explaining what the picture is, where the environment is, what is generally happening, and then move to 3 or 4 sections in the picture. 3 sections is okay. Provide extensive and detailed information. Don't try to explain everything in the picture, right? Anything else you guys like to add before we go to section 4?
Yeah, there's just one more thing I wanted to add. I mean, apart from details, because obviously what they're doing is important. Maybe you can describe colors, what they're wearing, that's fine too. But what I would add to that is to give feelings, like just the last picture that you put, the woman looked exhausted because she's cooking, you know, and she has to take care of these 2 kids. Just by putting the word exhausted, I'm already putting more context to it. So it's not just, if you can't describe every single little detail, well, how are they feeling? Why are they feeling that? So give some more information, and that will help you to describe what's happening as well. Or the girl with the pigtail, she seems very content giving food or throwing food to the ducks or the loons or the geese, whatever they were. But again, she, just by saying she looks so content, is I'm giving some feelings toward it. And so there's more information describing what's going on.
Yes, and just to answer the last question here, yes, we start an overview. The tense we're looking for here is present continuous. She is cooking. They are sitting. The sink is overflowing. The children are drawing, right? So they are, she is, it is, right? So that's what we're using. Good.
I was going to say, Mache, so if you're combining like multiple observations, like I'm looking at this going on here and then this going on here, how do we link that together?
Behind, in front, next to her, behind, we're using spatial organization. So that's where we want to mark. In here, behind her, next to her, in between, in the very middle, at the very front, at the very back. So we're using spatial organization to map all of these different features, right? Present perfect, no, simple, present continuous. She is going, right? All right, moving on here, let's take a look. So to section 4, so that was section 3, describing the picture. In section 4, we're gonna see the same picture as in section 3, but this time it's asking us to make some predictions. In this picture, what do you think will most probably happen next? I guess back to Anna now. What would you do in this picture, in this section? Anna.
I would start with using the same descriptions that I started from before. So using the same people. So if I described 3 or 4 people, use those same 3 or 4 people and give some future prediction, because it's what do you think will happen next. So you're definitely using the future tenses, but use the same ones. Don't come up with a new person and then you're starting to end up describing more information about that person instead of focusing on what's going to happen next. So that would be my take on this.
And that is fine too. But from my particular point of view, what I would say is do not focus on more than one thing. So before maybe you had 3 different points, right? You talked about the children in the back, the kids coloring at the table, maybe the boy in the front painting. I would focus instead on describing one thing. Here, we no longer need to set the context because we have already set the context in section 3. So here, we're actually going to do way better if we just focus on one point. For example, if we just focus on the boy, right, and what the boy is doing. Focus on one point and extend it. Make predictions. As long as they relate to that one character inside of the picture, you are fine and on point. And again, this is going to be a test of your future tenses. We have to talk about the future. But you know, this is CELPIP. It's not about what's going to happen in the future. They're asking you what is probably going to happen, which means they're trying to ask you for using not only future tenses, but also future tenses with the language of probability, because you're asked to what will probably happen next. So yes, you get a certain score if you say the boy will or the boy is going to, and you're using simple future tense, that's fine, but you get a much better score if you use the language of probability. The boy might want to stay behind and finish his painting. The boy is probably going to stay. He is most likely going to stay. So using the language of probability increases your score in this section significantly. Not, of course, you're using future tense. This is the grammar point. You have to use future tense, and you can also get a much higher score if you use future tense in the along with language of probability. And for me, it's always a better idea just to focus on one particular detail and extend it with language of probability. You only have 30 seconds to prepare and speak for 1 minute, and this time goes fast. Any other details you guys want to add before we go to the next section?
No, good.
Okay. Section 5, moving to section 5. Oh boy, now we're almost halfway there, guys. There you go. Section 5, comparing and persuading. Patrick, so if you guys remember for this particular task, this is actually a 3-part task. First, you'll have 1 minute to choose an option. So you'll get 2 options, maybe 2 offices, 2 buildings, 2 restaurants, 2 vacation spots, 2 prizes, 2 types of office parties, right? About 2 different things, right? Depending what you choose. For example, if you choose the traditional Inuit parka, you choose the other option. Your friend, your boss, your colleague, right, will choose another choice, and their choice will be worse. Always worse. So if you're going to have 2 choices for a restaurant, you choose a nice restaurant, the other person chooses a hot dog stand. There are 2 different trips for children. You choose going to the petting zoo, they choose a pinball, very violent pinball game or something like that. So it's always going to be a different. Patrick, how would you answer this particular question?
I would pick the one that I have the most to say about. So kind of like taking a lawyer's perspective, and, you know, the one that I feel is the best option that I have the most points to support, I would pick that one. I also might spend a little bit of time talking about why the other option is not a great option. So how does that sound?
I'm just answering here. One of the questions that we had in the chat. But yes, what I would say is Patrick is absolutely right. Here we're comparing and persuading. Yes, we're going to be comparing, not just comparing, but we're persuading. We're trying to explain that our choice is better. My general idea here is that we're not going to talk about both options equally. Instead, we're going to start this answer by acknowledging the other option. And I like to have that 25% to 75% combination. I don't like to speak 50 and 50. We don't need to talk about both options. My best way is to start by acknowledging the other option, which means, and remember, the other option is always worse. So for 25% of the talking time, which is equivalent to about 15 seconds, no more than 15 seconds, explain why the option is bad. Jack, you know what? That other jacket looks really tacky and it's probably going to be very low quality and not last for very long. That's why I think that's it. Get straight to the Canada Goose at this point. Talk directly about your option and not only compare the different parts about these options, but focus on persuading the other person that your option is better, right? So that's what we're doing. We're persuading that the other option is better, right? Justify the answer. Give reasons for your answer. And yes, you're going to get some bullets there, but you don't want to read those bullets. The Mac Daddy is $100, while the Canada Goose is $1,000. Hip hop style is stylish. Good for 20? No, do not read those bullets. You don't even have to talk about the bullets. You can entirely disagree and ignore the bullets and use your own judgment and your own creative ideas when comparing these two things. Stay in context. Don't talk too much about the other option. Start very quickly by acknowledging the option and then focus, giving reasons why your option is better. Guys, any advice here or anything else?
Well, if having those bullets, it is a sort of a helpful guide, but I do agree not to try to use that information too much. And if you have to, so if I say, okay, the jacket is much more expensive than the other, but it's much warmer, it has more zippers, you know, I can add more elements to it. So for me, it's like trying to debate between two things, and I'm trying to convince you. So I'm persuading you to buy this jacket. And I think, you know, trying to use a lot of energy and enthusiasm in this section would be very beneficial, because you're trying to tell that person, no, don't get that one, get this one, because this is so much better. You know, I don't care that it's more expensive. And I'm not saying, okay, your jacket is $100, my jacket is $1,000. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, okay, sure, it's more expensive, but look at all the things it has. So I'm now giving more details to it.
Exactly. Free yourself of the bullets and just use your own ideas and you'll always do great. Sound natural and provide lots of extension. Moving on very quickly as we're flying through these tasks. Task 6, dealing with a difficult situation. Oh no, your friend got into a car accident and wants you to visit him in the hospital. However, you have already promised to take care of your friend's 7-year-old child today while she's doing an important job interview. Oh boy, your friend or a single mom. Who are you going to disappoint? In fact, you're going to have to disappoint someone. I guess, Anna, what would you do?
Well, in this case, you're faced with an awkward situation. So there's no right or wrong answer. You just choose one. Choose one that you feel that you can give more information, more details to. So you're forced to deal with the situation anyway. So try to come up with something that in this situation you would use. Tone is very important here, because I think being Canadian, you're always trying to be nicer to people and act a certain way, say things in a certain way, not be angry and mean about things, but doing things very cordially.
Right.
So,
I would have to say at this point, yes, this is where you have to speak to one person and you're going to make someone unhappy. You're going to dissatisfy someone. This is what it means. Having a difficult situation, you're going to make someone disappointed and unhappy. And yes, absolutely here, proper tone is key. This is your test of proper tone, because first of all, you're going to have to make formal or polite requests. Would it be possible? Would you be able to? I was wondering if it would be possible to. There are a lot of formulaic descriptions and requests that you really need to remember here. This is about using proper formal requests. I would appreciate it if I could. I would certainly appreciate it if I could. I would like to request. I must sadly request, right? I have seen no choice but to demand. When you're really, really angry, you still have to be polite, right? You can extend it even further, considering the circumstances. I must sadly request as the satisfied customer, right? There are many formulae that you need to learn to make formal requests. Oh, in this case, can I say I will babysit and then visit later? You cannot visit. You cannot attend. That's the point. You cannot go in the middle. You can say I'll visit later, or I can schedule someone else later. But no, you will not be babysitting that particular day. That's the point. You have to make someone unhappy. So there are no compromises there, right? Just deny them, unfortunately. And again, denial is also part of it. I'm afraid I will not be able to babysit your child this weekend, right? So here's the difference in tone. I'm sorry, I am sorry, I can't help you tonight. It's still, I can't help you. Instead, I will not be able to help you. Even if you use please or sorry, that doesn't change your tone for CELPIP. It's the formulaic long form sentences that have an impact in your score, not saying sorry and please, right? We know in many languages, right, that we can just add sorry or please, but it doesn't change the tone. They're looking for specifically the tone. So for this task, one good tip here is understand the question very carefully. Read the question. You have a minute to read the question, but visualize the audience. Try to imagine you're speaking to a real person. It's going to come out a lot more natural. I find that this task is easy for most individuals because these are we deal with difficult situations almost on a daily basis. Just one point here, watch your tone. Any final questions here? Any comments or additions?
I'm good.
Oh, Patrick, the next one's going to be for you. It's going to be task 7. Ooh, this is the most academic task. Expressing opinions. They'll just give you a quick little question. Do you think it's a good idea?
You gave me the hardest one, eh, Mache?
Oh, almost the hardest. No, we'll give the hardest one to Anna. That's going to be the hardest one. We'll save the best for last. But this is the second hardest. And this is something that a lot of students really have a problem with. Task 7. Do you think it's a good idea for parents to live with their children after the children get married? So we have a question. Patrick, what would you say here? What would be your tips?
I would say my feeling, which is actually that's tough because there's pros and cons to both.
There are.
And there's no correct answer here.
And there's no correct answer.
Yeah. I would use your strategy and think about the different arguments on both sides, and the one that I have more arguments for, I would choose that side. So I would probably go with the side of like not staying with the parents after they get married. I could talk about, that that gives their own personal space for their relationship. Sometimes the parents might not like the partner. So if they live together, then it's going to be, like a big mess. So that's kind of how I would approach it.
Yeah. So you would choose one side, which is absolutely correct. That's exactly what you want to do. I'm going to tell you one thing, though. Remember, and you guys, if you've done a lot of CELPIP practice tests, you know it. Section 7 questions are really, really stupid. What I mean by stupid is they'll ask you questions like, everyone should be forced to vote when they're 18. Do we all have to vote after the age of 18? Of course, no. Everyone has to go to college until the age of, everyone in Canada must be forced to do post-secondary education, right? Everyone must stop working after age 65. These are always questions which are not even legal. They're actually against human rights in our country in many ways. So big tip here, don't be afraid to disagree with the question. Because many candidates look at the question, they're like, oh, I don't even know about it. I'm just going to agree anyway. And it makes it harder. Don't be afraid to disagree. You only have 30 seconds to prepare, right? And big point here, this is a yes or no question. This is not a depends on the situation question. You have to be 100% one side, 100% agree, 100% disagree. There is no middle ground in this question. This is so tricky here because if you actually show there's advantages and disadvantages or advantages of both positions, your score will be lower. This is similar to TOEFL writing, for example. In many standardized tests, they ask you specifically, and they tell you here, this or, right? And you know it's or, right? So you know this is yes or no. The big problem and the big challenge for these questions is you only have 30 seconds to prepare, and you have to speak for 90 seconds. So this, in contrast to every other CELPIP speaking question, this is the question where you need to brainstorm at least 3 points on a piece of paper. You will be equipped with paper here. I strongly advise that you brainstorm on a piece of paper 2 or 3 points. I prefer brainstorming 3 points because even if I can't get to all the, even if I have enough for those 2 points, I have that 3rd point just in case I run out, because 90 seconds is a long time. It's a long time, right? We're choosing our audience, but again, for some of you, and you want to know what the format might be, generally speaking, it's nice to have a format for this, because if you're ready with a format, with a nice structure for this question, you're going to stress a lot less. Start with a position statement. No, I don't think parents should live with their kids after they get married, right? Then provide. Again, 2, possibly, maybe 3 points of view. Remember, just like we talked in section number 1, less is more. Can you give more examples? Can you provide details? What about Uncle Bob? For example, my Uncle Bob, he got married and he had parents living with him, and boy, they used to fight every single day. Totally good story, right? But provide more than one separate point of view. Use those transitions, first of all. Secondly, finally, right? Use transitional signals to separate your supporting points in this particular answer. Anything else, guys? Anything that you might add, Anna or Patrick?
Well, I think one of the things I absolutely agree. I mean, you have to pick a side, and it's not necessarily the side that you personally agree with. So
Right.
don't be scared to say, oh, I'm going to choose this side because I think the rater would like this response better. But it's about how much detail you can give. So if you can speak more about the other side because you have more things to say and more details for those examples that you give, that is better. But I definitely agree. One of the things I always tell people is don't say it depends because you're not choosing a side.
No, it's a big mistake. Choose a side, choose the side that's easier for you to speak about. Don't be afraid to lie, and don't be afraid to reject or argue against the question. So don't be afraid to disagree with the question. We are flying here. We're flying, and we're moving to our last section, best for last, section 8 for Anna Banana. Here we go, Anna. Describing an unusual situation. And in this particular section, the question will be always a context. You are in a furniture store and you see a lamp you would like to buy, but the store clerk won't let you take a photo. Phone a member of your family, provide a full and clear description of the lamp, and ask if you should buy the lamp. And of course, you'll see the picture of the lamp or furniture or animal or bed or something. And it's always going to be weird, really, really weird. Anna, how would you tackle this particular question?
I think this one is always a tricky task because there's two things that you have to realize. One is the story. What is the background? What is that information? And the other is describing something extremely strange, unusual, not common. And then respond to that. You're also talking to somebody. So who is the person that you are talking to? And at the end, you have to ask them. So you have to put all this information into one, and at the end, ask them if you should get it. So somehow you're trying to say, oh, this is a beautiful lampshade. It has, it has one leg. I don't know. But there's so many things that you can say, and it's wearing stockings.
Yeah.
With high heels. This would look fantastic in my living room. What do you think? Should I get this? But you're always looking at something very strange, and sometimes you might not know everything. Like lampshade, somebody may or may not know it. So you have to use the best of your abilities to describe what you see. You may not know all the vocabulary words, and that's okay if that happens. You could even have like price tag. There's certain vocabulary words, and it's meant to be like this on purpose, because it is a tougher task. So we're expecting maybe not everybody to be able to describe it in detail as other photos you were able to describe, or the task 3 where you just describe a photo or things that are going on. That's easier because you have different elements that you can choose. This is all you have. So you could try to do your best to describe as much as possible, but then don't forget there is a background to it, and try to finish by asking, oh, should I get this? This looks fantastic. It's not that expensive, but make sure there's an ending to it.
I agree with Anna completely in this task, especially when we talk about knowing that there is a specific context. This is not section 3 anymore. In section 3, we were just describing the picture. Here, we have a specific job to do. We actually have to accomplish a particular task. And here we have only 30 seconds to prepare. Again, it's useless to take any notes. All you have to do is read the question carefully, understand that there is a context here. This is not just a section 3. Right? What is the purpose of this? You have to ask if you should buy the lamp. What happens if you don't ask if you should buy the lamp? Then you get a lower score, right? Even if your description is very good, you cannot ignore this context. Now, I've had some students that have developed different strategies. In my group CELPIP course, we don't have just one strategy. We develop as a group different strategies that work for different students. And some students like to do this context right from the beginning. Anyway, I've been looking through this furniture store, and I can see that there's a really great lamp. Do you think I should buy it? Let me tell you about it. And then they just go straight into the description. This actually really helps because you're not saving that final question at the end. You're not risking missing the question. All you can mentally do then is just focus on answering and describing the question. So you don't have to leave this at the end. You certainly can, but one thing that I've noticed is if you accomplish the task straight from the beginning, you have more time to describe and focus on the description of the object. And even if you run out of time and you get cut off in your description, that's not going to be a problem either. That being said, here's the greatest tip I'm going to tell you. Do not paraphrase the question. Hi, John. I'm in a furniture store and I see a lamp and I won't be able to take a photo. So I'm going to provide you with a clear description of what it is. Here it is. Boom. You just wasted 20 seconds of your precious 60 seconds of time that you need to use for this description. Avoid the paraphrase completely. Avoid paraphrasing this task. Do not talk about not being able to take the picture. You can never take the picture. That's the point. You can never take the picture. Whatever it is, get to the point. I'm in a furniture and I was wondering if I should buy this lamp. Perfect. Get straight to the point. I really think I should buy this lamp that I'm seeing here in the store. Let me describe it for you. Perfect. Get to the description. First 5 or 10 seconds, get to the context, focus on the description, which is the main point here. Again, The way to prepare things, you only have 30 seconds. The only way you can do this is to mentally prepare your answer by looking at the structure of the object. Plan your response, just like section 3, we were planning the direction. Was it behind, a foreground, middle ground, foreground? Here, it's a little bit more simple, from left to right, from top to bottom, from front to back. Organization helps you to create more details. You're focusing on the bottom, describing as much as you can. This is a high heel on a wooden base. It is a black, shiny high heel. And there's a leg. It is a woman's leg wearing a pantyhose. It is glowing from deep inside. And on top, there is a lampshade. It has little frills moving around and a price tag hanging from the side, right? So you, by being able to organize and cut the response into pieces, you're able to, or plan the direction of the response, you're actually able to generate more details about this. So remember, there is a real context here. There is something that you have to answer in this task. And so we just got through all 8 speaking tasks with some excellent tips for you. And just to answer your questions, there will be this section was recorded, and it will be available on YouTube, and it will be available. A link to this video will be available for anyone who registered as well, which brings us to the last meaty gritty part of this presentation, which is the Q&A. So you guys, we looked at all 8 sections of the speaking. We are precisely wanting your answers. We are the experts in the CELPIP test. Ask us question, anything you could want, service, customer service related, format, anything. Go ahead and shoot, guys. Patrick, you're the mediator. Tell us what we need to know.
That was great. Yeah, great job. So I'll just look through the questions here.
Well, in the meantime, I think one of the things I would recommend, especially since most people have their cell phone devices or tablets, I mean, especially for the speaking, if you're able to record yourself, that's one of the great things about technology. You can hear your responses, see if you're repeating the same type of phrases or vocabulary words, try to modify that, but practicing really does help. So if you're able to do something like that, I know there are some people that say, oh, I don't like my voice. Well, yeah, this is the time to see what type of responses you're giving, not the tone of your voice. So hopefully you'll be able to use that type of technology to help you to respond to these type of questions.
We actually have a video on YouTube in Summerhill Academy YouTube page called Self-Study Strategy. Under that self-strategy video, we have strategies for all speaking, listening, reading, writing. For speaking, record yourself and listen to yourself. And find a study partner. In fact, find 2. The best way to study is in a group of 3, because if someone doesn't show up, the other 2 can make the other person feel awful. That's the way to keep it going. If it's just 2 people meeting every single weekend, maybe they won't show up, and then you will be too lazy to record yourself. Get 3 people as a study group. The study group minimum size should be 3, and it's like a really good size because you can alternate and move and practice each questions, especially if you come from different cultures. If one person's language is, let's say, Mandarin, the other one's is Spanish, and the other one is Ukrainian. Perfect. You have 3 different languages. You will pick up different problems. You'll pick up different grammar issues and be able to support each other. So at Summerhill Academy, always have a group course, and we always have little WhatsApp groups where everyone meets up every single month, every single week to practice their speaking. Any other questions there, Patrick?
Mache, they said that the link that you posted doesn't work. Do you have another link?
Absolutely. I'll provide a link here, guys. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. I typed it out.
Oh, no, I got it. So yeah, not a problem. So so the link I'm actually providing here, this is the registration link for my group CELPIP course. I'm just going to go ahead and put it into the chat here. So this is the JOT form for my group CELPIP course. So I am for you guys who just want to know who I am. My name is Maciej Blazik, and I've actually worked in the language teaching languages for many years. I actually started as an IELTS examiner instructor, and I've taught IELTS, TOEFL, and CELPIP in many universities and colleges throughout Ontario. I am also a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. So as every regulated Canadian immigration consultant, I had to take a language proficiency test, and I chose to take the CELPIP because I find that CELPIP is substantially easier than IELTS. That's number one. And number two, I just feel that that exam is much, much fairer. And that's why I was able to get a perfect score in this exam. But of course, using my experience in taking this exam, I designed a 40-hour, 4-week intensive CELPIP course. This course runs every single month. At the beginning of each month. You can follow the link that I sent you guys for a free consultation. It's always provide a free 30-minute consultation for all new recruits at Summerhill Academy. And the new course starts May 1st. This is a 4-week, 40-hour group course. So it's an interactive small group course on Zoom. And you get to meet with a variety of people who are just as focused on the CELPIP as you. So all the students are very focused and high level and are willing to support each other. So you're really joining a community of learners. The course is very, very well structured. And in fact, if you check it out on Google, if you check out Summerhill Online Academy on Google, we have a 5-star review with many, many reviews, over 36 reviews now for our group course, and they're all organic, real reviews. And as a promotion this month, students that sign up for the group CELPIP course receive a free immigration consultation from FutureSoft Immigration. So that's another value to your course. So if you already have an immigration consultant, it's good to have a second opinion. If you don't have an immigration consultant currently, this is a place for at least you get a free immigration consultation and get a good start. This is from a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. Hey, it's me. So in any case, if you're interested, our next group CELPIP course starts on May 1st. The registration is open. You can go ahead and follow the link for the registration when it's sent in the chat. It will be probably sent to you in the email after this particular webinar. But if you want to, if you don't remember the link or you don't know about the link so well, you can always just search us at summerhillonlineacademy.com, and you can use any of there's a program inquiry form for the CELPIP there. And if you fill out my form or send me a message, I will send you a response, book you a free consultation, and send you a copy of the course outline, which shows a description of the daily core class basically structure. So that's about it for today, guys.
Great. Just a few things.
Yes.
Patrick posted the YouTube channel for Summerhill Online Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure that the link works, because another person posted that it didn't work. So I'm not sure if it was, maybe if we can repost the link again for Summerhill Online Academy.
Yeah, there's the link, registration.
Okay.
And I'll get for the YouTube channel.
Thank you, Yuri, for reposting the link.
Yeah. And then we had 2 questions, and now I'm not sure where they are. Let's see. It says, I applied to Express Entry Experience class. I was accepted into the pool meeting requirements. My CELPIP expired while I was in the pool. Then I received a note saying that I did not meet the requirements. This was after being accepted for the first instant. Do I have any way to challenge this, or am I forced to spend the fees on CELPIP again?
You are going to need a fresh CELPIP score. So if the CELPIP score, unfortunately, if it's 2 years expired, it's 2 years expired. That's just the way it is. So if the government does not accept your expired CELPIP score, CELPIP test, do not blame CELPIP. Do not blame Prometric solution. That is the rule. It's each of those language tests are set to expire after 2 years. It's the same for TOEFL or for IELTS. So it expires after 2 years. Yes, you're going to need a fresh CELPIP test, unfortunately.
We have Caliana asked, why is there no timer in the speaking module, whereas other modules you have the timer?
The answer is there is a timer. It's not a timer which is digital. There's two timers. One, it's a numerical timer. It says 30, 29, 28, and actually that's your preparation time. So when you see the time going down, but then when you're speaking, you see a green line that moves forward. So yeah, yes, you do have a timer when you're speaking. There's a clear indicator that shows how much time you have left for each of your 8 speaking portions. A numeric indicator for the preparation time, and then a green line that slowly expires for your actual speaking time.
Great.
So
And
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Anna.
Oh, I just saw another question. It says, when I practice one question for 3 times, my talking contents are all different. May I know how to change that? Thanks.
To answer the question, yes, I am one of the 2 instructors for the course. I am one of them, and the other one is Firas. Firas and I both have master's degree in education. We are both certified CELPIP instructors, and we've had a lot of both Firas and I have great reviews you can read about at Summerhill Academy. And yes, I've done a lot of things with my career, but teaching is something I've always loved. So Summerhill Academy is an opportunity for me to continue to do what I really love while staying busy with other things as well. But yes, I do have a great passion for teaching, and I never miss a chance to make this course better at every semester I can.
Thanks, Mache. But I asked you a different question. I think you were reading one question and I was asking you a different question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm like, oh, questions here. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly repeat it. It says, when I practice one question 3 times, my talking contents are all different. May I know how to change that?
Why would you?
That's
That's the first question. Why would you? Just become a better liar. This is a good thing. If you're able to produce 3 separate, very different responses every single time, that's awesome. It's even better if you are able to provide 5 completely unique answers every single time. In fact, that's how you should train. You should train to give a different response every single time, because you have to be ready for that moment of spontaneity, that moment where you have to improvise and just produce something out of nothing. That is the key. So my simple answer is, you're not doing badly. You're doing great. That's what you're supposed to be doing. What you're listening for, you should be worrying about, what you're supposed to be changing is any consistent errors. Are you missing any article? Are you missing your tenses? Are there pronunciation issues that are making your language seem strange? Apart from that, don't worry about the actual content. As long as the content is on topic and answers the question, it doesn't matter if it's right and wrong.
That's a great response. And that takes me to my next question, which you kind of already responded to, but it says, do we have a template that we can refer to for all the speaking tasks?
Do we have a template for all of the speaking tasks? Yes. So basically, so that comes back to the group. So there is no template, so to say. The tips that we're talking about is basically what we're doing, but at Summerhill Academy, there are no templates, because templates don't work, because templates create a memorized sounding or answer that usually is not going to be able to get you above band 7. If you're looking for band 7 and CLB 7, and that's all you're looking for, sure, go ahead and get a template. Templates are often used in many schools, such as in China and South Korea. Actually, South Korea and Japan are using fewer templates now. It's still used in some countries, like in China. Templates do not work generally. Avoid templates like the plague. Train your mind, train your intellect Train your vocabulary to improvise and answer differently every time. Yes, follow the requirements of the task, but do not use a template. By using a template, you're risking using memorized language. And remember, CELPIP examiners are looking for templates. They're specifically trained to recognize templates. Would you really want to use a template to get a score above 7? I don't think so.
That's perfect. Thank you. Patrick, could you give us a little bit of information on the bank offer? Because I know you mentioned it in the chat.
Yeah, sure. So we have a limited time promotion right now. We have a partnership with one of the big 5 banks in Canada. So it's National Bank of Canada. All you have to do, they have a good newcomer offer where you just open a bank account with their bank. You have to go to that link that I provided in the chat and you open the account. You make one transaction. So it could be buying a coffee, paying for gas, and then you'll get the $280 deposited into your account that you can, for example, it can help pay for your CELPIP test or anything else that you need help with. So that's the offer link. It's pretty much free money, and all you have to do is make one transaction with that account. So it could be like a stick of gum, it could be gas. And then they also have, I believe it's 3 years of no fee banking. So typically when you open a bank account in Canada, you have to pay a fee every month, but they have for newcomers 3 years of no fee banking. So you could check out the link, but it's free money, so it can help you.
And when you open the account, you can do everything online.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's pretty simple to do. So if you're here in Canada, you can go ahead, open the account and get the rewards.
So we had a question from Deepika. So she said, how do we build vocabulary for unfamiliar situations? They can throw anything at you.
Right. I would say for building vocabulary, yes, you should be in unfamiliar situations, be social, be around people, but overall, the best way to build vocabulary in general is reading. Reading is by far the best way to learn vocabulary. Yeah, podcasts are great, you learn new words, but it's hard to sort of remember and retain them. When you're reading, right, and when you're reading a book, especially novels, I don't recommend reading newspapers or news articles in general. Read a novel. It doesn't matter if you're reading a book about teenage vampires or a space to or a trip to the moon. What's important is you're reading something that interests you. Read a novel. As you're reading, you will find vocabulary you're not sure about. Create a vocabulary journal. The best way to create a vocabulary journal is not to just write the unfamiliar word along with the definition. Instead, write the word and then write a sentence that uses this word. Yes, you're not familiar with the word. Try to figure out the word in the context. We train you how to do that in my course, but basically try to figure out the word in context and then write down the word in your vocabulary journal in maybe 1 or 2 sentences that uses the word. Not the definition, use the word in a sentence. Then, as you move forward, you will add different definitions and different words into your vocabulary journal. Then when you go back and self-study, you'll see the definition again, and then you'll see the word again, and you'll be unfamiliar. And what will you have to do? You'll have to figure out the word in the context of the sentence that you created yourself. That's how we remember. Remember vocabulary like a child. It's not about translation. It's not about definitions. It's about the context and personal use. So if you use the word in your life, if you use the word in a sentence that you created, and then you come back 24 hours or 48 hours later, and you see that word in that sentence again, you remember it forever. So the best way is reading, even for speaking. If you want to learn vocabulary in another language, read books, read novels, read fictions. Don't just read the news. It's very repetitive and boring.
And just to finally give some context, there was somebody asking about the time. This one is an Eastern Standard Time. So if you are in another region like Vancouver, so if the program starts at 7, it'll be 4 p.m. And depending on where you are, it might be a different time zone. So just so that you know about that.
Right.
Yeah, so I think we'll wrap it up here, but definitely get in touch with us after the session. You know, with your Mache's your go-to guy for immigration help or getting ready for these tests. So yeah, I wish everybody the best of luck with your immigration process and taking these kind of tests. Stay safe out there, enjoy the spring. And yeah, we're going to be hosting more sessions like this in the coming weeks. So just keep checking the CELPIP Instagram channel, which is at CELPIP Test Official. And yeah, best of luck to everybody. Have a great night. And yeah, we're happy to be providing this information to you.
Great. Anna and Patrick, thank you very much for joining me at this session of Summerhill Net Academy. Guys, just keeping an eye on the official CELPIP Test Instagram. We will have another webinar this month on April 19th, but this one will be for future soft immigration. And we're going to be diving more about the impact of the CELPIP on your CRS score and the different programs that are available that take advantage of different CRS score levels. So you can definitely register for that for the 19th. Details about that will be posted Instagram within the next few days. So again, Anna and Patrick, thank you so much once again for joining me. And thank you for everyone else who has been joining us. And again, if you are interested, you can always register for my group CELPIP course, either by using the link in the chat or search me at summerhillonlinacademy.com. And I'd be happy to schedule a free consultation and give you a little bit more, a few options about how you can improve your CELPIP.
And stay tuned because the next Summerhill Online Academy webinar will be about writing. So if you're interested in how to improve your writing, we will be doing another presentation very soon.
Perfect. So stay tuned, guys. Take care and thank you for coming.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.